All right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about success by client hit list. So first of all, my name is John Verbrugge and I'm with Shared Hands. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how to achieve success in your business by choosing your own clients. That's probably the best possible scenario. All right, so what is a hit list? Easy enough. A hit list is a simple list of companies or individuals that you have determined to turn into clients. So it's very simple and a very direct strategy for reaching more customers and the best customers. So let's get on with it. You may be wondering, why would you want to have a hit list? Well, here's the best part. You get to choose your own clients. Quite often in small businesses, you kind of take who comes. You got a client, you've got a new client comes on, and maybe they're good, maybe they're not, and you don't have the ability to say yes or no at that point because you're basically needing to have clients and needing to make some revenue. So you're not going to be able to say no to a client that might not be the best fit. With a hit list, you go out and you choose who you want to become your client. It's a very simple concept, and the steps to get there are pretty well defined, and here's the best part, is that it actually works. There's no magic to it. It's, as we'll see later, the steps are pretty much, clearly defined, 1, 2, 3, and if you go through those steps, you execute well, you can actually pick your clients. So here's the big question. Is a hit list legal? Well, of course it is. Nobody gets hurt. And here's the key. You get to stay focused. You get to stay focused on your ideal client and not have to kind of be wandering around wondering where your next client's going to come from. Here's a brief overview. How does it work? You're going to make your dream list of your 25 people or companies that you want to turn into clients. So here's where I'm going to deviate a little bit from Carissa. In the hit list strategy, Carissa says 50, and I found 25 is going to be plenty. Is going to keep you plenty busy. Maybe you could start with 25, and if you still have time left in the quarter, in the 3-month time period, pick another 25. But point being is, you make your dream list of clients, and you are going to work with them until they become clients. So you pick your list of 25 prospects, and you work with them until they become clients. Now, this works best for business to business. So typically, if you're a small business, you're selling business services to other businesses, that works really well. If you were doing business to consumer, but you had a really high ticket product, so maybe real estate or exotic cars or something like that, you could probably do business to consumer. But for the most part, it's going to be business to business clients that this strategy works well with. So let me tell you about Doris. So my own company had a hit list, and we wanted to work with well-networked executives. So we made a list of well-networked executives. And I met Doris at a business mixer and got to know her a little bit, exchanged business cards, and I also met about 20 other people at the business mixer. And we're going to find out in a few minutes what happens with Doris. So she's on the hit list. I know about her. She knows about me. And we're going to find out how that works in real life. All right, so here's a good question. Who should I put on my hit list? And I would say number one is start with your SLAP. If you think back to your SLAP, it's going to say something like, I perform business services for James on a regional basis. Well, you've done a lot of work to figure out who James is. James is your ideal client. You figured out, what he likes to do, how many kids he has, his favorite places to hang out. Point being, you have already kind of figured out your ideal client. Now, if you're doing business to business, that can also mean finding your ideal industry, the size of company, the revenues, the location. So you are going to well define your niche of who your ideal client is. And another piece of the overview is you're going to plan it out. Okay, you've got 90 days to execute this plan. So you're going to have time to plan out each week, what you're going to do each week, which steps, and it's pretty easy to schedule this out. As you're going to see when we go through the steps, it's not rocket science. It's fairly cut and dried and straightforward. So it's very easy to schedule out, not a whole lot of ifs and thens. Very much we're going to plan this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to step straight through. So it's easy to schedule it out. All right, so here are the steps. Number one, you got to do your research. So the first part of your research is going to be using your SLAP. So that's your ideal client, that's your James. But then beyond that, in order to get your hit list of 25 ideal prospects, using online databases and Google to find these companies. You're also going to research the social media. So let me step back a minute and just tell you about one of the online databases. Here's an insider secret that you might not know about. Almost every big city library has access to what's called Reference USA. Reference USA is an online resource for small businesses where you can do a search, and you can say, we're going to find this out, we'll do an example in a minute, but you can say, I want to find all the companies in this area who have this much revenue or in this particular industry and who have this number of employees. So you can really, really target exactly what kind of business you're looking for. Now, let me just say one other thing. Another way to do this is if you are in your community and you're working locally or maybe even nationally, you already know, hey, this is this particular company. I've read about them. I read an article about them. They're a company I would like to work with. Put them on your hit list. These are going to be companies that you already have done some research or read about, and you can already know this would be an ideal company to have as a client. So there's two parts of it. Number one is doing some research and using some databases. Number two is companies that you already know you want to work with. Okay, now we're going to research the who. So inside those companies, you're going to be connecting with actual real people. So that's going to be, if it's a small company, it'll be the owners. If it's a larger company, the CEO and some vice presidents. And you're going to find out who these people are. You're going to find out their names and their contact information. And here's a real key. Okay, you're going to want to find out the gatekeepers. So if it's a small business, you're going to find out the name of the administrative assistant or receptionist. And if it's a larger company, each one of these executives most likely has an administrative assistant or a personal assistant. These are the gatekeepers, and these are the part of your strategy now is going to be to get to know them as well. And just to kind of reiterate that, you're going to need to connect probably with more than one person in the company, because usually there's multiple decision makers and there's a lot of influencers that you'll want to get to know. Okay, so let's take an example so far. This is going to be the research part. All right, so using Reference USA, you're going to find all the real estate offices within 20 miles of you that have revenues of $1 million or more and have at least 5 employees. So there you've got a location, an industry, a number of employees, and a revenue level. That's going to come up with a certain number of companies from that search. Once you've got that list done, you're going to create a spreadsheet, 1 line per company, and you're going to start filling in information. This is building the hit list. You're going to find each company's name, address, and phone number, Facebook page, LinkedIn profile, and Twitter handle. Those last 3, Facebook page, LinkedIn, and Twitter handle, those you'll probably need to Google for. You won't find those from Reference USA. You will likely find the name of the CEO or the owner of the company from Reference USA. That's often listed right in the search results. You'll have to dig a little bit to find the names of administrative assistants, but it's not too hard to do. So in your spreadsheet, you've got your 25 ideal companies. Some of them are going to come from this search. Some may come from your list of companies you already identified. I got to work with them. I know they'd be really good clients. All right, step 3, we're going to start doing some contacting. So if you are already doing a paper newsletter from your company, immediately put your entire hit list on the newsletter list so that they receive your monthly newsletter. All right. So if you're not doing a paper newsletter, you could start one just for these 25 companies. And the reason you want to do this is because that's going to be one way that they're going to get to know about you. So a paper newsletter is pretty easy to start. We can talk about that a little bit later if we have time. But point being that if you're doing any kind of outbound paper marketing, whether it's brochures, newsletters, catalogs, that is going to be one thing that you'll want to make sure that you send to your ideal companies and specifically the individuals in those companies. And again, it's not too hard to start a one-page paper newsletter. My company, Shared Hands, we started a paper newsletter about a year ago, and we received so much connection back due to that newsletter. And we're going to find out a little bit more about that when we talk about Doris again. Okay, step 4. We're going to start contacting these companies via email. So we're going to start an email campaign to your hit list. 2 ways to do that. First of all, if you are already using an automated email system like MailChimp or Aweber, you're going to use that. So pretty much anyone who's doing online marketing has an email list, and you are collecting names and you're sending out the occasional either email newsletter, or you're doing a drip sequence or something like that. If you're already doing that, make sure that you add your hit list companies to your automated email system. But don't worry if you're not. If you don't have email marketing set up, you can use an email template. And that template is going to be to basically say, you know, dear so-and-so, and then you go on with the template. So the template is going to be basically introducing you. You're not going to ask for anything. You're not going to pitch them on anything. It's an email of introduction. Chances are that email will not be read, but as you go throughout the quarter, you're going to be using those emails again to connect with them again. So again, 2 ways to do that. One is if you're using an automated email system like MailChimp or Aweber, or if you're not, then you can use email templates and just send each individual as a separate email. Okay, so next thing is direct mail. If you're doing any kind of direct mail, this will be the time to add these hit list companies to the direct mail list. Again, this kind of goes back to the paper newsletter, but now we're going to branch out a little bit more from the paper newsletter. You're going to make sure if you have material like company brochures, send the brochure. If you have a catalog that your company sends out, send the catalog. If you have a book, if you have written a book, that's absolutely something you should send for free to each one of your hit list companies. Now, assuming you're looking for major prospects or clients that are going to bring back more revenue. So that's in the direct marketing world, we call that a shock and awe package. So you can send out to these prospects a shock and awe package, which would include any articles you're in, any articles you've written, books, you know, the newsletter. Point being, you want to wow these prospects with stuff about you. So another way to do that is with a personal handwritten card to the individuals inside those companies. Personal handwritten, I guarantee you, gets delivered and read. Anything that's printed with you know, a label on it looks like marketing. That's going to go through the gatekeeper. If you send a personal handwritten card to that person at the company, it will get to the CEO, VP, owner. It will get past the gatekeeper. So just keep that in mind. The next part of this, what I would recommend, is a 3 or 4 step postcard mailer. So for each company on your hit list, send out a postcard, a second postcard, a third one, and a fourth one. And this is going to be kind of about us, and then maybe highlighting some of your products, highlighting your services, and then maybe a pitch. Point being, step 5 is to start contacting your hit list with direct mail. All right, now social media. So you've got your hit list already listed out, and you know their Facebook pages, you know their LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram connections. You want to connect with every single one of your hit list companies on social media. So this takes some time. Go find their Facebook page, like the page, get on their LinkedIn, friend them or connect with them on LinkedIn, get on their Twitter feed, find them on Instagram and Pinterest, and then interact. So if they send out a survey, reply to it. If they have questions that they're posting on their pages, contribute to the posts. You can ask questions too. So if they have an active Facebook page and have a place where you can ask questions, ask a question. And the point is basically to get your name known, to let somebody over there to know who you are and to interact with them on social media. All right, now here's the part that everyone fears most, and that is the calls. When you're doing hit list, you are going to be connecting with these companies and with individuals at those companies via cold calls. But here's the key. At this point, they are no longer cold calls. Cold calling is basically calling someone you don't know and asking them to buy your services. It's a little ridiculous. It doesn't work very well anymore. Most times those calls either go to voicemail, they never get picked up, or they just don't work. But if you are already known, if you've already connected with these companies via direct mail, newsletter, email, social media, there should be enough people over at the company that when you call, your name or your company's name will be known. So these companies already know who you are, and you're going to need to get through the gatekeeper. So you might need to research that a little bit. I won't go into the details of getting through the gatekeeper, but here's an example. If you sent a card to the CEO and then a week later sent a card to the personal assistant or the administrative assistant, just thanking them for passing on the card or for connecting, allowing you to connect. If you know that admin assistant's name, you're going to be able to talk to that person and likely get a call through to the VP or the CEO. So I recommend that you look up how to get through the gatekeeper. There's a number of books on the topic, and once you're making these calls, you will actually be able to get through and talk to the decision maker. And then another step along the process is go where they go. Almost all of your hit list companies are going to be out in the community doing something, whether it's chamber events, whether it's a meetup, community events. There might be a regional conference for the particular industry. So if you're looking for dental and medical, go to the dental society meeting or conference. If you're looking for real estate agents, go to a monthly real estate agent meetup or breakfast. So you'll need to research that as well. You're going to want to find out what conferences and what monthly or weekly meetups there are, community events, that sort of thing. Find out where your hit list companies hang out and go there. You'll have an opportunity to meet them. You might, quote, accidentally bump into someone that that's on your hit list. Again, it's allowing them to put a name with a face and allowing them to interact with you, prior to you actually making your pitch. One other thing, by going to these events, you also learn about other companies that you may not have known about that would fit your hit list, would fit the criteria of your hit list. So you have an ability now to branch out even further. So from your hit list's perspective, you are everywhere. So you've been able to connect with them via mail, email, social media, in person, and then on the phone. You have basically connected with them in every possible way. And at this point, you have a really good in. They know who you are, and you have an opportunity to sit down with the decision maker and actually make your offer your services. All right, so let's go back to my story about Doris. So I put Doris, after I met her at the Business Mixer, I put Doris on our company newsletter list, and she started receiving our newsletter. And I put Doris on our email list. She started to receive our email drip sequence. And I had not gotten to the point where I was ready to call my hit list yet. Doris did not need an administrative assistant right away. By the way, shared hands, we offer administrative assistants, and I knew that Doris's kind of company would be an ideal client for us. Doris did not need an administrative assistant right away, but here's what happened. 3 months later, the nonprofit board that she is on did need an administrative assistant. And she had been receiving our emails, she'd been receiving our newsletters, and she emailed me and she said, you know what, we need an admin assistant. I don't remember where I met you, but you're the guy. And they are now one of my best clients. So the whole hit list thing, making a target, putting people on the list, getting them on your contact list for paper, email, social media, and calls. They know who you are, and when it comes time for you to connect with them, or in the case of Doris, she actually connected with me first. She said, you're the guy. That was very gratifying to see that whole system work. Okay, so this may sound like a lot of work, and on the one hand it is. There's a lot to do, right? Newsletter, emails, social media, even making the list. But here's how we can make this easy. Every one of the steps, almost every one of the steps, is outsourceable. So we can make this easy by outsourcing. So if you think back a minute, well, let's just go over this list here. Compiling your initial list of for your hit list. Okay, you've got some companies that you already know about, and we have the companies that you have searched for. You can outsource the research for compiling that initial list to an assistant. All right, completely. Here's the criteria I'm looking for. Go find me 25 companies, put them on the spreadsheet, and it'll take 2 hours. All right, so that's 2 hours of research that you can completely outsource. Then researching the actual contact persons inside each company, okay? Finding out who's the CEO, who's the VP, who's the owner, and who are the administrative assistants, all right? So that's going through that list of 25, finding contact names, and now personal email addresses, not personal, but I mean their company email address, and really digging down and actually finding the contact person. That's another piece of research that you can easily outsource. Here's the names of the companies. Go find me 3 contacts in each company, including admin assistant, CEO, and VP. So really easy instructions and something that an admin assistant or an outsourcee could do and then return you the results. Now scheduling. So you've got, in a quarter, you've got three months. What you're going to do on which week. That's about a 1 hour task. You're going to do this on this week. You're going to do this on this week. If you take that the initial list that I created, the step 1 through 8, each one of those steps can be done over. Some of them are do them more than once, but you can spread those out through the whole month and save your calls for the last, for the last month. Point being that the scheduling out of what to do when, you could have an administrative assistant schedule that out for you. All right, so putting the newsletter together, getting an article written, organizing it in Publisher or whatever the Adobe product is, creating the newsletter in that tool, getting it all set up, printing the newsletter, addressing it, stamping it, putting it in the mail. That is a 3 to 4 hour task. It's not huge. Once you have it done once, then actually sending it out on month 2 and 3, pretty simple. Again, that is completely an outsourceable task. All right, then to the direct mail stuff. Writing and mailing cards and letters. So that's handwriting letters, handwriting cards and creating letters for direct mail. You can have the assistant do everything except actually do the handwritten notes. Everything else he or she can do, putting them in the envelope, putting the stamp on, getting their correct addresses on them, bringing them to the post office, et cetera, et cetera. The writing and mailing of those direct mail pieces can definitely be done by an assistant. So that requires a very minimal amount of work from you personally. So that's another thing that can be outsourced to free up your time. Then drafting emails. So you've got an email template or you have an email automation system, drip campaign. Drafting those emails. You're going to want to make sure that people are getting emails, a couple times a week. So that's going to be a lot of content, but it's content that is very, very simple to write. Again, in the online marketing quarter for SLAP, there's a lot of information about how to do a good email and a good campaign like that. So my point is, drafting the emails, you can see I've put like 5 hours for that. But again, this is another piece of it that you can outsource. You might be able to create all the content and then have your assistant doing all of the mechanics of placing an article in an email, creating the newsletter, doing the merge, sending it out every couple days, twice a week, once a week, whatever you decide. But very little of that has to be done by you personally. Posting to social media, another great opportunity to have an administrative assistant helping you with that. Again, you can create the content, you can pick out the photo, you can pick out the material that that you really think needs to be posted, but the actual posting of it and the actual putting it into each social media system can be done by an administrative assistant. Now the calling, I'm going to say you can share that with your assistant. You might want to have a warm-up call done by your assistant and then a follow-up call done by you, or maybe vice versa. At some point, you're going to want to actually connect with them personally. And clearly, if you're going to be going to events where your hit list clients are going to be, you have to do that in person. That's not anything, you cannot outsource yourself. You cannot outsource your real presence. But the scheduling of those meetings can be done by an assistant, as you can see there. And the calling is what's going to take the time. So if we've warmed up your hit list with all this other preparatory work, and you're actually calling them, you're going to spend a number of hours making those calls throughout the month. Again, you can share that with your assistant. So some of it's going to be your assistants doing follow-up calls, and some of it will be you doing it yourself. But there's a large chunk of that clearly that can be outsourced. So let's say, if we add up the numbers here, it works out to about 30 hours of work, and that's 30 hours that you can outsource over the course of 3 months. That's outsourcing 10 hours per month. That's going to free you up a huge amount of time to actually meet with these prospects as you actually get to meet with them and talk with them. You're going to have lots of time to actually do the real meeting where you're going to sit down and convert them into clients. So by knowing what you can get off your plate to make this whole system work, you can absolutely make this thing work by outsourcing about 10 hours of it per month, and only doing the stuff that you have to do. The two parts of it that you have to do are one round of calls, and then actually meeting with them in person, either at an event, and then finally the sit down where you've been invited to meet with the prospect in hopes of turning them into a client. Everything else is outsourced. All right, we're going to recap a little bit. The client hit list, it is simple, it's effective, and it's outsourcing. Brief recap, you come up with 25 ideal prospects that you want to turn into clients. You're going to work with them over the 3 months. And by outsourcing a good chunk of that, you're going to connect with them on direct mail, newsletters, email newsletters, social media, and phone calls, as well as events where you know they're going to be hanging out, and finally, an in-person meeting. All right, so that's the gist of the hit list. Once again, my name is John Verbrugge, and I work with Shared Hands. We do personal assistance and outsourcing. Our website is sharedhands.co, and that is not a misprint. It's not .com, it's .co. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and we've done quite a bit of this sort of thing for our clients. So I'd love to have you connect with me. Either send me an email to say hi, or come check us out on our website or Facebook or Twitter. And I would also like to make an offer to anyone who's listened to this presentation. I'm going to offer a free 1 hour of personal assistant to the first 5 people that respond. So send an email to john@sharedhands.co, and you can request your free hour. I'll get with you and we'll figure out which part of these hit list strategy or something else you'd like your free hour, and we'll make it happen. And I'm going to turn it back over to